let's talk about the big news of the day. JP Morgan, big bank, take little bank.
Another one.
Literally. JP Morgan has taken over control of First Republic Bank. First Republic Bank seized by regulators. So the deal finally was approved by FDIC. JP Morgan is taking on $103 billion in deposits. I believe 84 branches, something like that, in 8 states will now reopen.
They opened yet today as JP Morgan Chase banks.
Okay. So let's really get into this situation.
Another example of you should only invest in the top 2 in the space. JP Morgan is number 1. Bank of America is number 2. I think Brian's a great CEO, but Bank of America stock has not moved that much. Also, living through the last recession, what you see normally is that smaller banks get acquired by bigger banks. At some point, we'll go in detail about FedNow, but FedNow has selected who their partners will be. JP Morgan will be one of them. So with the acquisition what total win for JP Morgan, because now they get to ensure some safety, and it was needed. He stated that this level of bank collapse is over. This is not 2007 and 2008, but we're going to see the bigger banks get larger, and the mid-sized banks are going to go away. As a result, PNC got punished today. So it's no way that you can. My baby Xander called me. There's no reason for you to invest in the bank number 5 through 10 if JP Morgan is sitting up there at number 1 when they have all the favor amongst government. And I want to be very clear when I say this. The banking sector is not a great sector to invest in anyway. There's only about 4 or 5 banks you should invest in long term. JP may be one of them if you're older. I wouldn't do it right now, but this is a classic case of we're going to see massive consolidation, or during this great reset and depression period, we're going to see that the market is going to go down and the big banks are going to get bigger as a result.
Yeah, and we saw this happening. This wasn't surprise.
No, at all.
This came out of nowhere. We saw this happening when we saw what happened with Signature, and we saw what happened with SVB. When people make a run on the bank, right, when they start withdrawing their deposits, that's a fire. That's the alarm. You got to see that. And so when people saw that, they were looking around to see which bank is acceptable for another run. And right away, people pinpointed that First Republic would be next.
Yep.
3 weeks ago, we covered it because the big banks, the big 5, put $30 billion into these banks.
Yep.
That didn't help because during the quarter, last Monday, they reported that they lost this is First Republic. They lost $100 billion worth of deposits during the first 3 months of last year. Their stock was down 97%.
It was on a death spiral.
This is the exact definition of a death spiral. 97% in 3 months. Of course.
Jim Cramer.
Of course. What did we think was going to happen? Right? It just so happened that, this probably been going on in the works because the number 1 depositor when they were putting money into it was JP Morgan.
Yeah.
And so the government looked at FDIC, said, look, this is about to fold. Who can help?
Yeah.
Who's the number 1 depositor? Let's call JP. They saved the day.
Yeah.
They did it just in the nick of time before Monday morning's business opened. And now those branches that, were once First Republic on Friday are now JP Morgan. The problem is, so a lot of people are like, well, what does this mean? What does this mean? Doesn't mean much for the people who had their money inside the bank.
Yeah, if your money was in it.
Your money was there, you're fine, right? The problem is what happens to the people who were invested in the stock.
You're screwed.
Those people are in trouble because even now, if you look at it, they don't have an idea. So JP Morgan did not assume First Republic's corporate debt or preferred stock. So neither JP or the FDIC have explicitly said that they're going to purchase the means of First Republic's common shareholders, the stocks. So if you had stock in it, this is an unfortunate time.
So what does that mean if you had stock in it?
It's over with.
It's over.
It's going to go on receivership. At some point, you may get a small settlement for pennies on a dollar. A few of you hit me this morning. The only thing I could say is I'm sorry. It's not a time for.
Because even in the order of repayment, the shareholders are last.
Yeah.
Right. So at first it goes to the depositors, then it goes to the unsecured creditors, then subordinated debt, then after all that,
Yep.
then it's like, all right, let's see if we can pay the shareholders back,
Yeah.
which it doesn't look like it's going to happen.
No.
So part of the settlement with Chase, it has nothing to do with, all right, we're going to pay back the shareholders. So if somebody had shares in First Republic, unfortunately, I mean, if you're paying attention to your account, right, and you're watching it go down 50%, 60%,
you definitely got to cut
95%, I'm not sure this is the time when you're like, all right, let's see if it'll go back. At that point, it should be like, hey, there's a huge issue going on here, or you should be alert to that, or you should have maybe a stop loss. That would probably be the best thing. And again, it's unfortunate.
And then also, if you invested in the stock, I have to ask you, were you like actually banking with the bank? I never have met one person that said they banked with FRC. Ever. Like, it goes back to the classic example. Like, sometimes if you're not using the product that you're investing in, it's not a good investment. If you don't know anyone else that's using it, not the best investment. Once again, were they top 2 in the space? No. Did they have a competitive advantage that no one else has? No. Like, the easy gains of 2020 are gone. Companies that are constructed horribly, shitty valuations, not the best customer base, they're going to go away.
Shai, they said, are you okay? Can you look up if you're okay? He's okay.
Powering through.
We're going to get through this. No, but this is the biggest collapse since 2000 in Washington Mutual.
Yep.
Here is what they have in common. Who purchased Washington Mutual?
Wachovia? I mean, no. Who purchased Washington? JP Morgan Chase?
There you go.
Yeah.
Common theme, right? Common theme, right? Before that was Bear Stearns. Who purchased them? JP Morgan Chase. Common theme, right? So when we talk about big bank getting big, the biggest just got bigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
If Buffett does not get a chance to bail somebody out, it's going to go to JP. They have preferred treatment amongst Federal Reserve and our United States government. And you have to give him credit. Jamie is probably one of the smartest bankers since, like, this is like easy pickings. Like, when LeBron went through what he went through in Miami, it prepared him from when he played the Golden State Warriors. Like, this is easy money for Jamie. He's been through this before. 2007 and 2008 were way worse. This is an easy pickup, easy acquisition, game, set, match. Banking is not the best sector to invest in. Only do it if you're older, but if you are going to do one, do so with JP Morgan. I'm not just saying that because
it's not an endorsement.
Not an endorsement.
Yeah, but I mean, just historically, if you look at even the 2008 situation, the role that Jamie Dimon played in pretty much saving the banking system. I mean, again, here he is again, getting another acquisition to add to the portfolio. So, yeah, the big bank just took on another little bank,
literally.
Yeah.
What about Jim Cramer? Was he being sarcastic?
What do you do?
On March 10th, he said First Republic is the new focus. Very good bank.
He's had a history of this, man. He's had a history since. So it's crazy. It's crazy because you bring him up, and again, this is a legend. We're not throwing dirt on his name, but since the moment he cried, remember he did the crying thing with Meta?
Yep.
He cried on camera because I believe it was stock, and he cried. Like, since that moment, it went up 178%.
You got one down.
But like now they've had a whole meme. Like I told you, they created a whole ETF with that. It goes to opposition to everything he says, and that the ETF is actually performing well. But when he said, I'm like, wait, was he serious? Because this is March 10th was probably the time when we were talking about, all right, here come the big banks to come help them out and add $30 billion in deposits to keep this one afloat. I'm not sure what he saw.
I always say it anytime, and we saw it with Stephen A. Like, JJ Redick lit up Stephen A. saying, "Hey," and listen, I'm having a hard time just driving with a torn MCL, like let alone Kawhi playing. When you're doing media that much 5 days a week, it's very hard to be able to do research at the same time. So, and Jim's getting older. I mean, he was gracious when I met him. I had the honor to meet him last year. But doing a show every single day doesn't give you enough time to do research. Like, even doing a show weekly is tough for us. So, we got Flu Game Shotty over there playing through the
Flu Games.
You know,
he got a tour MCL. This is
come on, but show must go on. Speaking of which, get your tickets to Market Mondays live in London.
Tell them where. Peacock Theater,
June
18th.
And me and Troy was having a little conversation before the show started. Y'all better get these tickets because now I get to be in charge of pricing. Okay. Chicago price is going to be different.
All the way up.
And so what got us. So get your tickets now so I can teach you how to master this market. before it turns over on you.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.